Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Wednesday with the Jocks of All Trades podcast. This is Armchair GMs, the show that will hopefully bring you a fantasy championship this season. Guys, we are not live. We're not actually here this week. This has been the past 2 weeks. I hate doing this. I know you all have questions. Our schedules have just been so crazy, and it's still planning on changing that we just can't get around to getting here when we want to. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to bring you quality content. That being said, let's dive in. You and I both you weren't here last week. So let's give them as much wisdom as we can to get them through the last couple weeks of the playoff push. Let's go to Jock's grades. First of all, I almost went to this game. Last minute, we didn't have the money for it, and I didn't go. But I would have gone to Colts, Buccaneers. Apparently, I missed an incredible game. I watched it, but it's just not the same as being in the stadium at one of those games. Leonard Fournette, hello, welcome to Fantasy Relevancy. With 44.10 points, he takes A. He has to. No one was remotely close. I don't think anyone predicted he was going to be the lead back for the Buccaneers.
No, and I didn't predict even if he was the lead back, he'd perform this well from week to week. Like overall in the year, he only has 620 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns, but 51 receptions in a PPR league. That gives you an added maybe 4.5 points a week, which is monumental. I really thought Ronald Jones would be something this year, and he has been just downright nowhere to be found. He's been awful. So it's good to see for Fournette and for the drafters of Fournette because wherever you drafted him, he's definitely outperforming his draft stock right now.
Yep. For our B this week, we haven't talked about him a lot this year. He kind of dominated last year, and then this year it's just been on and off. Josh Allen had 34.70 points. Sign of things to come. Just a good week for him. He's been very spotty, so I'm just curious as to what your thoughts are on him.
He's putting up a lot of yards this year, and he's always going to because they literally cannot run the ball. They can't. His arm and his legs is the majority of that offense. Like at least with Lamar Jackson, like they try to run the ball. And Davonte Freeman can do something. Like I feel like the Bills don't even try, and they're just really, really bad at it sometimes. Most of the time, Matt Breida has been okay for them recently, so that's good to see if you're a Bills fan because maybe your running game's going to come alive a little bit. But Josh Allen overall is just throwing way too many interceptions this year. He's thrown 10, and that's not being talked about enough. He's forcing the ball in tight spaces. Opposite Stephon Diggs, I feel like Cole Beasley's not really doing much. Sanders isn't doing much. And Dawson Knox has been in and out. So, like, when teams just target Stephon Diggs the entire game, where do you go with the ball? So, he's been good this year fantasy-wise for sure because his legs is always an added plus. But definitely not the MVP type year I thought he'd be having because when Brian Dable, he came back again, everyone's like, oh, no, like – the head coaching candidate, he's back with the Bills. Watch out this year. And the Bills are pretty average. And Josh Allen's stats, a little bit above average, and that's nothing to write home about. So,
right. Average doesn't win you a championship, unfortunately, which still makes me sad that Kyler is still beat up. Anyhow, let's go on to our C. Again, our C is not a bad grade. It's just you were good. I could have given this to Jaylen Waddle, but I'll tell you why I didn't. Jaylen Waddle is in the top 10 receivers. We've kind of expected him to turn it on. Nobody else is really there for the Dolphins at all, with the second best option being Gesicki. Like, that's not good. But, I mean, it's great if you're a Jaylen Waddle truther. I drafted him really late in your league. Actually kind of thinking about keeping him now. Not sure yet.
Probably a good idea.
I have to give it to the guy who has been consistent but not explosive. T. Higgins had 23.40 points. This had implications for the rest of the team that we'll talk about later. But for now, like, hey, like I took T. Higgins instead of Jamar Chase because I expected T. Higgins to have that huge target share kind of play that he had last year, and it just didn't materialize until this week. So I wouldn't say it's going to be a sign of things to come and that this is just going to be his norm, but he's a consistent player. I do like some consistency in fantasy. He's there. Let's get painful here. I picked one from each of our teams just so we both have some pain. Najee Harris at 6.70 points. This is less about Najee and more just about the Pittsburgh Steelers themselves.
Yeah.
They could not do a freaking thing against the Bengals. A shocker. Because it's not exactly like the Bengals have been a terrifying team forever. So 41-10 though, that's tough. That's tough for anybody on the Steelers to like come out with anything. So Najee will take D this week. And F, Chris Godwin had 4.70 points. You want to talk about somebody that's usually pretty consistent in fantasy?
Yeah.
I would stick him up there too, and it just didn't happen. But again, I'm not going to blame Godwin. Godwin's still here, but I'm going to blame Brady. Brady didn't look good against the Colts.
The last couple of weeks, Brady has kind of looked pedestrian at best. They're running the ball a lot more because they can, and I feel like with Tom Brady, we've always seen like if the running game's working and he sees the defense and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna get a good rush here. Like my running back's probably gonna get a good 5-6 yards here. It's advantageous for my running game. I'm gonna change the play and I'm gonna hand the ball off." And Brady's very comfortable with doing that, so that's probably a little bit more what's going on. But yeah, overall, Brady the last couple of games, just I feel like. Fantasy-wise, he hasn't been great. Let's see, the last 3 games, he has 5 touchdowns to 4 interceptions with around like an 86 passer rating. So, and that's against Washington's defense, the Giants' defense, and the Colts' defense. Washington's defense is not good. The Giants' defense is a little bit better, but still not very good. And the Colts' defense really hasn't lived up to the hype this year. So, yeah, not great because the previous 4 games, 112 passer rating, 110 passer rating, 102 passer rating, 144 passer rating. A couple earlier games, 129 passer rating, 103 passer rating, 97 passer rating. So it's a little stretch for the Buccaneers, even though they've won all of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's looking a little
normal.
A little normal, back to earth. So
I am only going to pick on you about saying the Colts defense is lackluster. They're number 5 right now. They're still good.
Oh, in fantasy, I'm just saying like they haven't.
They should have been a number 1 defense.
Maybe they turned it on of like recently, but earlier in the year they were a little
hot and cold.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was the only thing I'm picking on you about. Yeah, Brady looks human for the first time in a long time. But you know what I can't say? He should hang it up because every time we say it, brings it out of nowhere. So I'm not going to say it. Just going to say he looks normal now.
Insanely stupid to keep saying that.
Yep. Let's hop into Sleeper Seekers. I wrote last week and this week. I'll do last week's just recap and kind of give a little bit of a playoff. Are these guys that you should keep or drop? We don't usually do that, but I'm going to do that this week. And then I'll let you handle this week's because you might have a better pulse on what's going on with some of these players than I do. But so last week we told you to pick up Elijah Moore. He had 9.30 points, which was the best for all Jets wide receivers in that game against the Texans. Disappointing if you started him because you're expecting more than 9 points against the freaking Texans of all people. I would caution dropping him, though, for only having 9 points because next they play the Eagles, the Saints, the Dolphins, and Jacksonville. And listen, just those 2 games in week 15 and 16 has the potential for him to have really good games. What are the Dolphins going to do on defense? What is Jacksonville going to do on defense? Like, especially Jacksonville out of the 2 of them. that is like a must start. You have to. I don't care if Zach Wilson looks like hot garbage. Elijah Moore has a lot of timeshare with that ball. It's not going to be Michael Carter. Michael Carter's gone. They're not going to rely on who even do they have?
Denzel Mims,
Coleman,
Denzel Mims, running back. Yeah, Tevin. I think he might be hurt now. They have what's his face, Johnson, still there, and he's not anything either. So
the only caution to that is Corey Davis could take a lot of touches away, but with Corey Davis being in the air, I think Wilson and Moore have more time to get it together, figure things out, work together as two rookies. I mean, we've seen it before. Rookies lean on rookies. It happens. So we'll see what happens. Keep Elijah Moore. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Michael Gallup called it, but it's not really cool to say called it, I guess, when CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper both aren't available. So, but Michael Gallup did have 15.60 points. Lost the game, but still 15. I mean, almost 16 points is pretty good for a receiver. I mean, it's not going to break the records by any chance, but here's another good one that I think you should keep because he plays the Saints, the football team, the Giants, and the football team again. Like, that's pretty killer. That's pretty killer. Now, if Amari comes back and CD is healthy, maybe that kills Gallup's opportunities. But when he had to be like the number one option for Dak Prescott besides said Wilson, you can never just say, well, they're not going to be a part of the offense moving forward.
Yeah, well, Said Wilson had a nice game.
He did. I wasn't sure whether to put Gallup or Said Wilson in there when I wrote it, but I thought Gallup, since he was coming off an injury, he is that kind of like big explosive playmaker. I thought he would do more than Said, but I mean, pick your poison. Would you say keep or drop or just hang on to him this week, see what happens, and then make a decision?
I'd keep him. I mean, a lot of people kind of had him starting, I think, earlier in the year before he got – I mean, the first game of the year, right? Mm-hmm. Before he got hurt. Like, he was definitely going to be counted on. So, yeah, I'd keep him until Cooper and CeeDee Lamb can show they can stay on the field. Then I think he's a good start, as is, I think, Cedric Wilson too.
Yeah. My next one is Adam Troutman. He is on IR, which happened like shortly after our episode. So we're just going to go ahead and skip talking about Adam Troutman. Maybe if you want like a late round keeper, if he wasn't drafted, I guess you could pick him up and keep him as like your last round pick, but I don't know that would even be worth it. Always go for the big three tight ends. If you don't get them, you're just kind of swinging at nothing. Although we should talk about Waller at some point because don't know if he's in the big three anymore. Anyhow, Cam Newton, 6.18 points. Speaking of pedestrian, that's pretty freaking terrible. Yep. He got benched. Upcoming games, he has a bye this week, then Atlanta. And then in your playoff push, he would be playing against the Bills and the Buccaneers. I'm going to go ahead and say he's droppable unless you have like the Tom Brady's of the world and he's hurt and like you're just desperate. He is a desperation play. He is not he's going to carry my team play. Not at all. I'll say droppable. If you're desperate, keep him. I would even almost run Taylor Heineke over Cam Newton at this point. And even Heineke isn't explosive either, but at least he's consistent. So go ahead and drop Cam Newton. If you really need a quarterback, hang on to him, but I don't think he's going to bring you that ring that you're looking for at the end of the season. I whiffed really bad here on this next one. Jeff Wilson had 1.70 points. Absolutely droppable. I didn't even write his schedule. I didn't think Elijah Mitchell was going to be healthy, so I thought it was going to be Jeff Wilson. But now
Elijah Mitchell went off.
Yes, he did. So if you have Mitchell, I would suggest Mitchell. Drop Wilson. Not going to be worth it. Last one, and I'll give you this call because I'm too biased. Davonte Freeman, I said pick him up. He had 7 points. Not what you expected against the Browns defense. The Ravens barely escaped that game anyways against the Browns defense. Lamar had a lot of turnovers against that defense. It just wasn't a good time to be playing Ravens players for the most part. However, here's the next schedule. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Green Bay, and the only one that I like out of here besides Pittsburgh is playing Cincinnati, which has a really terrible run defense for your Super Bowl game.
Yeah.
Is he keepable?
I think so. We just talked about the Ravens, like they love rushing the ball, and that's going to be still the game plan is with him and Lamar, just read option or speed option or triple, what all the crap they do, just very inventive kind of runs. That's still the name of the game for them. So I think Davonte Freeman, even though he had 7 points, like I think he can still average like 10, 11. Now, is that great? Is that what you want to see if you're starting him? No, but trust me, your starting running backs could be much worse, especially with the top 4 guys kind of, being out, like we talked about before. Derrick Henry, McCaffrey being hurt, Dalvin Cook, had that whole thing, and then he got hurt. And then who's the other guy? Kamara. So it could be much, much worse. He still got 16 carries this game, and he got 16 carries the game before that, 10 before that, 13 before that.
I mean, he's getting a healthy share, but I just feel my only complaint is I feel like he's touchdown dependent to be relevant.
A little bit, yeah. Their offensive line isn't good enough where if he gets the ball 16 times a game, he's going to get like 4 or 5 per carry and get that 10 that you want. He's averaging only about like 3.5. Yeah. So like it's okay, but it's not what you want to see if you're a touchdown dependent. But he also didn't get the ball in the receiving game this last game. 3 games before that, he's averaged about 4.5. So if he can get that bumped up a little bit to 3, then he sits at 10. So he needs to see the ball more out of the backfield for me to be comfortable with him starting. Yeah. But like you said, Pittsburgh's defense is still kind of there. Cleveland Browns don't give up much in the rushing game. Green Bay's done a lot better, and then Cincinnati's pretty horrible. The Rams are okay, then Pittsburgh again. So it's not the greatest matchups you want to see in the world. So
yeah. All right, that's last week's. Let's move on to this week's Sleeper Seekers. Kyle, take it away, man.
Yeah, so our first guy right now is Alexander Madison. Dalvin Cook's availability is kind of up in the air. He's probably going to be out. But Madison's been like pretty solid earlier in the year when Dalvin Cook wasn't there. This last game he had 10, but week 3 he had 26 carries against the Seahawks, 23 total points. Against Detroit in week 5 he had 26 total points. And then from Carolina to Green Bay, he didn't get the ball like at all. So I think the Vikings like to run the ball. They love to run the ball. Kirk Cousins cannot stand back there 50 times a game and hurl the ball. He's just not that kind of guy. He's very much like a Baker Mayfield, a little bit better than Baker for sure. But in the sense of like, if you have a good running game, you need to utilize it. And then from play action, I can get it to Justin Jefferson. I can get it to Adam Thielen. And that's why Kirk Cousins is the way he is because once he goes in that play action, once the defense kind of gears up for the run, he has 2 really, really good receivers on the outside to win one-on-one. So they're still going to run the ball quite a bit, I think, with Alexander Madison, as they should. And he plays Detroit next. So, yeah, if he's in free agency, pick him up. If he's on your team, I'd probably start him.
His games where he's played in relief, I was doing some research. Sorry to interrupt. His games where he's come in relief, he's averaging at least like 18 points. Like, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
23, 26, and 10. And in those 2 games where he went off for 23, they absolutely slammed him with running with like 25 and 26 attempts. One of those was against the Detroit Lions. So this is the week to start Alexander Madison, especially if he doesn't play. Just thought I'd back you up on that claim. How about it?
Yeah, for sure. Chuba Hubbard is our next guy. He actually might be available because I feel like a lot of players just kind of got rid of him after McCaffrey came back. I might be
Mhm.
wrong, but I think he's still a solid pickup. The Panthers will definitely need to run the ball because their quarterbacks just are they're awful. They're really, 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 really bad. So
Yeah.
Chuba Hubbard in relief of Christian McCaffrey, I think can do some good things. Let's see. He had 18 against the Eagles, 13 against Minnesota, 10 against the Giants, 14 against the Falcons earlier in the year. And then it went downhill from there after Christian McCaffrey came back. So he has a bye right now. But after that, he plays Atlanta. That's a good start. Buffalo is not a good start. But then he plays Tampa Bay twice. They're about average. And he plays New Orleans, who's very, very good against the run. So a couple good matchups there, but after that, it's pretty bad. I would still suggest you pick him up because he's going to be the lead back for the Panthers, and they're going to run the ball definitely with him. He's not going to do the fancy things like McCaffrey will do, but he stays on the field, and he gets the ball. He's a tough runner, and he can get it out of the backfield too. So I think you can project a solid 14 or 15 from him against Atlanta in a couple weeks. So,
yep. Third option,
we have Jamal Williams from the Detroit Lions. There's not many good things in the Detroit Lions, but Jamal Williams, I think, is one of them. DeAndre Swift is in and out of the lineup a little bit. He gets banged up quite a bit. Jamal Williams, like if you see him run, he's a tough physical runner. And again, much like when you have a bad quarterback, like Jared Goff, like whoever the Panthers have, like you just kind of forced to run the ball because you can't do much else with that horrible offensive line. Watching Jared Goff get hit 12 times a game and fumbling the ball and throwing horrible picks. So Jamal Williams is the kind of guy to help you out, I think.
If you're still worried about Jamal Williams because he hasn't posted really good stats even when he's been in relief. They play the Vikings. The Vikings are 23rd against running backs as a defense. And Dan Campbell came out yesterday and said it's really hard to see Swift playing on Sunday. So I feel like that would be a really good pickup.
For sure. Kendrick Bourne is our next guy. I had Kendrick Bourne earlier in the year. He is kind of hit or miss. He's up and down. He's hot and he's cold. But that's kind of just dependent on the Patriots' game plan. We know the Patriots, they have a bunch of kind of similar guys like Jacoby Myers, Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne. They're not always the same kind of player, but just guys that aren't number ones, barely number twos, if that. Yeah. And just kind of depending on what the matchup is. They love to run the ball again. But it seems like Kendrick Bourne, outside of Hunter Henry, is in fact Mac Jones' favorite target. So that's really good to see for Kendrick Bourne owners. Again, he's not going to be consistent. So you might get 20 this game, you might get 4 the next game.
Right.
I would say he's probably their best receiver, but that's not really saying much because they don't really have anybody else. Like I just said, a couple of 2s and 3s on their team. He is 24th in terms of receivers, so that's pretty good. In the last 3 games, he's averaged about, about 16, 17. So like that's pretty good. It's just he has these games. So he started out with 2, then 4, then 21, then 10, then 6, 14, 17, 5, then 6, 24, then 8, and 23. Like it's very all over the place. Even his targets are kind of all over the place. He goes from 3 to 8 and 5 to 3 to 2 and 4. Like it's just you can't trust him is what I'm trying to say. So
right.
Pick him up if you're desperate, but and he could get you 20, but he could also get you 2. So that's just kind of the risk you're taking.
That's very true.
Foster Moreau, I don't know much about. I'm assuming he's Darren Waller's backup.
Yes.
So that's something. I mean, we look at the Raiders as they are right now. I think they're very Josh Jacobs heavy. Brian Edwards has become kind of a target for Derek Carr, but after that, it's Hunter Renfrow in the middle of the field because Henry Ruggs is somewhere, and Zay Jones is something, I guess. But it's mostly Hunter Renfrow in the middle of the field, then a deep shot for Bryan Edwards if Darren Waller is out. So Foster Moreau, maybe? What do you think?
He's been okay in relief of Waller, but not explosive. This is more just a if you need a tight end desperately. Yeah, that's the only reason I put him in there. He's not going to have 20 points in the game. If anything, you'll get 10 to 12, which is not bad for a tight end.
Yeah. Next is Curtis Samuel. He's been probably one of the biggest disappointments in all of fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has 8 total points on the year? So if he can come back, I mean, he's a good player when he's healthy, but I just don't think he's going to be healthy at all this year. It's like a lingering injury.
If he is, the only reason I tabbed him is he plays the Raiders, then he plays the Cowboys, then he plays the Eagles, and then he plays the Cowboys again. The Cowboys cannot stop a lot of things. Yeah, they got Diggs. Yes, Diggs can pick the ball off like crazy. Been there, seen it. He was at Alabama, I know. But at the same time, do you really think Diggs is going to be on Curtis Samuel if Curtis Samuel plays?
Well, even if he is, Diggs is a very good corner who, like you said, gets the ball a lot. However, he's also very susceptible to double moves and that whole Dallas Cowboys team is. So it's for them, it's really the Micah Parsons and Trevon Diggs show. So those guys really aren't doing much in the game. Their defense is kind of out. So he plays against Scary Terry as well. So that's a fun matchup to watch if you wanted to do that. So
I'm going to pull up stuff for the next thing. Jock or joke. I've got a couple. They're teasing at my brain. And I had to get the first one out because I thought I made a killer trade, and then I started looking at his performance. Kyle, Jamar Chase, is he a jock or a joke?
He's still a jock. People are just finally realizing that after all the I don't know how to catch an NFL football thing, he's actually a really good receiver, and they're starting to gang up on him. I'd much rather put heavy stock in Jamar Chase and let Tyler Boyd go one-on-one with someone, or even let T. Higgins go one-on-one with someone.
Yeah.
But T. Higgins showed up because one-on-one, deep down the field, he's a very big physical body that can overpower someone. So that's what you saw with T. Higgins. But Jamar Chase is the kind of guy that one-on-one, with his speed, with his elusiveness, with his catching ability, his rack, he can just put up a lot of points, a lot of fantasy points. So he's still a jock. I just think defenses are starting to gang up on him now.
Yeah, I completely get that. This was weird because he kind of got overshadowed in that game. Ezekiel Elliott, is he a jock or a joke?
I haven't touched Ezekiel Elliott in a long time, just because I'm always gearing up for when he gets hurt or if he gets hurt. So, I mean, he really hasn't. He stayed pretty healthy. He's still a really good running back. He's a jock for sure. I want to say joke so bad because he's a Cowboy, but I mean, he's done really, really well. I mean, it's not been the 30 or 40 that Taylor got or Eckler got or those kind of guys, but he can put up 20 very, very easily. It's just Tony Pollard's there, and he's very good as well. So they want to see him on the field. If not a future back, maybe they can trade him away for something high. So I think that when all those receivers get back, that is when you might maybe see him decline a little bit. But listen, in the NFL, when you have 3 good receivers who can win one-on-one, what our defense is going to do? They're going to brace for that. They're going to play a lot of coverage, play a lot of too high, probably a lot of safeties in the back so they can give things underneath. And that's where Ezekiel Elliott thrives. So you could say maybe his stock will decrease when 3 receivers, they'll get healthy, but I think it probably would be just as good, if not better. So
yeah,
want to say a joke, but I think he's a joke.
I'm with you. He had a good performance on Sunday, but I really need to know, is Elijah Mitchell a jock or a joke?
Man. I'm going to say joke only because I feel like this is what 49ers running backs do. Like, they have this, like, one good year, and then everyone's like, yep, here's the elite running back that the 49ers stole in the 6th, 7th round. But then they get hurt, and they find a new goober to go in there and do just as well. So he had 28 this last game about that, and that's insane. Yeah. But other than that, he's been just okay. He put up 9 points against the Rams on 27 carries, by the way. 12 against the Cardinals. He had 19 against Chicago. That's good, but it's also Chicago. 8 against the Cardinals, 7 against the Eagles earlier in the year. He's been okay this year. I mean, he's been great for like a 6th round, 7th round pick, wherever they drafted him at. But I'm going to just say he's a joke just because like I don't trust him after this year.
Yeah. I like him. I know you like him. You have him. Michael Pittman, is he a jock or a joke?
I think he's a jock. Just from the little that I've seen him play, because I'm kind of gearing up to watch the Colts a little bit more, just because I have Jonathan Taylor, has Carson Wentz. Michael Pittman just catches everything. He's very physical. A lot of those USC receivers that come out, I'm like, it's a USC receiver, don't touch him. But listen, Robert Woods is insanely good before his injury. Michael Pittman looks like he's going to be a really, really good receiver for them. I think he reminds me a little bit of like a Vincent Jackson, if you remember him. R.I.P. I'm pretty sure he's dead. That's sad. Yeah. But he reminds me of Vincent Jackson a little bit. He's not quite as tall, but the way that he moves, he catches the ball. He's a very good security blanket for Carson Wentz. A lot of tough physical catches that he can make. So he's a jock.
He's not huge either. I'll be honest. He does remind me of, and you're not going to like this comparison, he reminds me of Marvin Harrison. Truthfully, he does. Little dude, kind of pulls in everything. He's not flashy, but he's good. Like, he's just a good receiver. And that's what Michael Pittman reminds me of. Will he have that Hall of Fame floor or ceiling? Who knows? I doubt it because, I mean, your quarterback is Carson Wentz, and they're going to run the ball like 28,000 times in a game. So I don't think he'll ever have that ceiling. But he reminds me the style of play, the kind of you can trust to throw whatever at him. That's where I'm at. Yes, Vincent Jackson, though. I agree with that. I had to scratch my brain for a minute to.
He's reliable for sure, but he's a big guy, and he's fast too. Like for being a big guy, he's not like this slow waddling guy. Like I don't know, T. Higgins. Like that's a bad comparison, but like he can move. He can move for sure, and he's like 6'3". Like he's got some weight to him. He's got some strength to him, so he's very reliable. That's what he is, and I don't think he's going to be an elite receiver, but I think he's going to be very, very good and on the Colts for a while. Yeah. So, and he's a jock.
Yep. Last one for you. He finally had his breakout game. Every analyst has talked about it. Every one of us has talked about it. Javonte Williams, is he a jock or a joke? Give me the easy answer, but at least tell me why.
I think if Melvin Gordon was out of the picture, he'd be a jock. Just because Melvin Gordon's in the picture, I'm going to call him a joke.
Oof.
I think Javonte Williams is a guy that you have to give like 25 touches to. I really do. He has to be your lead back. Like I don't think he's the kind of guy you give the ball 12 times. Like you're not going to see the full weight of who he is. He has a lot of really good moves in his arsenal. He can catch it out of the backfield. He's a very big, deep play kind of threat. I think he could be a lot more if he got the ball. I mean, look at this. 14 rushes the last game. He's never gotten over 20. The second or the highest he's gotten was 17 against Dallas, and he put up 111 rushing yards. So, that's what I'm saying. Like, get him the ball at least 20 times a game, and you're going to see him go off, I think. For some reason, they're just giving the ball to Melvin Gordon, too. I mean, Gordon's good, but Gordon's not your future back. So,
sorry, this just makes me laugh. Gordon, good. Yeah, I'm with you. There was nothing there that I really thought was a spicy kind of take. I fully feel that. I just put in a waiver request while we're talking. I don't know why I'm doing it, but there it is.
for who?
Van Jefferson, because I'm desperate for a receiver in your league. And we've bashed him a lot on this show, but I don't need Nyheim Hines. I don't. And anyways, so we're gonna do a special trade bait this week. Again, we are 2 weeks away from playoffs starting for most leagues, especially for 12-man and 10. I think it's 2 weeks. Listen, we gotta do it. We gotta talk about it. We gotta knock it out. There were 3 weirdos that I looked at for their schedules, for how they're performing. I will preach consistency every day in fantasy. And because I'm going to preach that, I will tell you why these 3 guys you should be targeting, try to trade for. The first one's going to be Jaylen Waddle. You may hate it. I understand if you hate it. He gets a really, really healthy share of the ball. He is averaging 9.6 targets per game. That is 6th among wide receivers. That's pretty killer. No wonder why he's in the top 10. The lowest targets he's had in a game is it's 4. But I mean, since then, since week 6, he has been the dude for the Dolphins. Here's where this gets really juicy if you need something to win you a fantasy championship. He plays the Giants this week. That'll be helpful. The Giants couldn't stop. You couldn't stop anything. Could literally stop. I don't know. I have no good analogy. They just suck so bad. He's on a bye for week 14. Sucks. Take the bye. It's whatever. But then he comes back in week 15 and 16, which is part of the meat of people's playoffs. I'll even go to 17 because some people go to 17. They play the Jets, the Saints, and the Titans. All of them suck against wide receivers. Jaylen Waddle has the potential to bring you a fantasy championship this season. What would you offer for like a Jaylen Waddle type, truly? I don't know what's fair because he wasn't like a premier player at the beginning of the season, but he sure as heck is now.
What to offer him? I would say maybe maybe if you're tired of Dalvin Cook, you could give him away for that. I'm speaking in terms of if you want to keep Jaylen Waddle, which you should. If you're trying to trade for Jaylen Waddle, maybe you trade someone that's a little bit better right now that can help that team right now, but then you get the better player in the future. Because I think he's going to be around for a while. I think he's going to be a good fantasy player for, assuming he stays healthy. So you might have to give up a little bit more on your end, but in the long run, I think it'll pay off.
I agree. Let's go to my second player. I know Kyle will give me some flack for this one. I'm more of a stand for this guy than he is. It's TJ Hawkinson. He is the 3rd-ranked tight end right now. However, that hasn't come without some inconsistencies. But let's just talk about what he primarily is, which is pretty consistent to give you 10-plus points. He's had a stretch of games where he wasn't entirely healthy. Jared Goff is still a trash bag and a half. We know that. That's not the primary part that I want to talk to you about here. The part is he is pretty good to catch the ball. When you give it to him, he's going to come down with it most of the time. Here's what most people don't like, but I'm going to sell you on it because it should be helpful. Now, the next 2 weeks, they play Minnesota and Denver. I get it. Minnesota could be difficult. Denver, unless they're putting unless they're putting Pat Surtain on him. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Then they play the Cardinals. Again, another hard sell. But here it is, the meat of this place and where I am going to sell this to you. Week 16 and 17, they play the Falcons and the Seahawks. You want to talk about two bottom feeders in the NFL that aren't good on defense? Two teams.
Yeah.
And look, where is Goff going to throw the ball? He's got Hawkinson, the most reliable target he has. And then maybe some rando that comes out and steals like 10 to 12 points away from Hawkinson every week. But Hawkinson is going to be consistent. Most people aren't going to charge you an arm and a leg for a tight end at all. It might be worth making a sweet little deal to try to pull away with TJ Hawkinson. What are your thoughts? I know you don't trust Goff. I know Hawkinson wouldn't be your first choice.
I don't trust Goff, but like if you're one tight end away from like being elite, then I would trade for him. I think, like you said, there's about 3 good ones, and the rest are kind of like eh. But Hawkinson's really close to being up there in terms of fantasy. I have Dallas Goedert, and I haven't got rid of him. I should have. He's 14th in tight ends, and I still have him. So there's availability for me to get better there. So a good trade for TJ Hawkinson, I would probably say maybe a guy like a Darnell Mooney out there. I think TJ Hawkinson, he said solid 10, 12 points a game. Mooney's been really good recently. He's averaging about like 18 or something like that in the last couple of games. So I think you're going to see him getting up there in terms of draft rankings next year. So I think Darnell Mooney would be a good spot. If the tight end or if the TJ Hawkinson owner is looking for a receiver, I think that would be good. Or maybe a little bit better, someone like Devonta Smith, maybe. I think that would be good. I think that would be kind of fair. Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Tight ends aren't that valuable, so like I'm not gonna.
No, that's why I said it's a low rider for something that could potentially carry you. Let's go my last one, and then we'll do Nightmare, and then I actually have to go in like a few minutes. So you're not gonna like this one, but my whole job is to sell you on stuff. Daryl Henderson, he is questionable right now. I was reading up on that before I put him on here. McVay said he'll be limited, but his injury shouldn't be long-term. He should come back. He's getting an 81% share of offensive snaps, which is pretty good. He is the lead back. We all expected Cam Akers to be a very high pick over the summer. Really put a lot of stock into him. Great talent. And then Daryl Henderson's name came around when Akers got hurt, and no one really rushed to grab him. Yeah. But let me tell you what, you want to talk about a team that is devoted to running and feeding him the ball. He averages double-digit freaking attempts every single week. Like it's good. That's really, really healthy. And here's the part where I'm going to sell you. We're going to go all the way to week 17 as usual. So they play Jacksonville, Arizona. One good, one bad. I get it. For the championship run, they play the Seahawks, the Vikings, and the only thing that's going to suck is the Ravens. But I don't see the Rams abandoning the run game against the Ravens D.
Yeah.
The cornerbacks are more terrifying, I think, and that secondary, because they will always come up with a pick. They will always contest every pass. I think Kupp and Henderson are going to be the only things to bring them out of a win against Baltimore if it happens. Listen, he's not sexy. No, I know that. It hasn't been anything that you sit there and go, wow, what a great player. But he's consistent. He averages 15 points. That's pretty good for a running back. Good enough for him to be sitting at 13 right now. What do you think? Is this another playoff push trade to kind of get you there? I know the only thing is the Ravens game. That's the only hard sell.
Yeah, if you look at it from a roster standpoint, though, I mean, Matt Stafford, very good quarterback, but he's banged up. So, can you trust him to stay healthy the last number of games? Also, their offense is a little shoddy right now. It is.
It is.
Are they not running the ball enough? Are they not being active enough in terms of giving him some easy throws, some short down and distance? So, like, they're going to have to lean a little bit more on the run, I think, in this last number of games, because when it comes to playoff time, you have to be able to do both. You have to. So, like, you're going to have to show teams that you can do both in the last 5-6 games of the season. So, I think Daryl Henderson will get the ball a little bit more, as he should, assuming he can stay healthy.
Yep. I've actually run out of time. So sorry, guys. Again, we're trying to give you everything we can with our schedule. However, hope this helps. Again, you're always welcome to message us. Find us on Facebook at Jocks of All Trades. You can find us on Twitter as at Jocks Podcast. We have multiple ways that you can reach out, ask us questions. I know we're not here for you on Wednesday, and I hate that, but please come ask us questions. We'll help you get there. And we are signing off.